Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today, listen to Mike King. Been a long time since I mentioned Mike King. Mike King requested some of the more interesting uses of Noble Ape, and I used it as an opportunity to rap about the Iranian military's use of Noble Ape, but I wanted to give another perspective here. And this is with regards to a program called Ecosim. I developed Ecosim in 1997. I developed it primarily because I had been contacted by a high school science teacher in Central Australia who wanted a computer simulation that enabled to show complex predator-prey relationships within an ecosystem. There's a wide variety of things that you learn implicitly through the ability to have sliders controlling, the consumption of various animals and plants and these kind of things, and working out how you can create stable ecosystems. One of the first things that you learn through doing these kind of simulations is that the more biodiversity in a system, the more likelihood of ecosystem stability. And it's a strange empirical piece of data that is relatively easy to come to if you have a rich simulation environment that you can play within. Ecosim, for me, unfortunately, was a vast tree of life, which is the worst possible biological cliche, that enabled folks to control, what the consumption rate, the birth rate, these kind of things, of a variety of species within an ecosystem. This was kind of graphically laid out with arrows and things like that. I was dating a graphic designer at the time. It was very easy to do. Then you ran the simulation and you saw in graphical form. Unfortunately, it wasn't at the stage where you could actually see these things interacting over long periods of time, but you could see graphically the effects of populations over time as you ran your particular ecosystem with its particular parameters. It was a relatively abstract way of exploring ecosystems, but it did show this beautiful relationship between complexity and stability that occurs within ecosystems. It took me about a month to actually develop from end to end, with the assistance of my girlfriend at the time doing the graphics. And I provided the package to the high school science teacher with much aplomb. It was used, I think, for at least a couple of years, and it still remains a software that I've considered reintegrating into the Noble Ape simulation just as a means of getting a different mode of analysis. The biology within the Noble Ape simulation is based on quantum mechanics, and what that means is you take any point in the island environment or the landscape environment, and you can get a variety of factors from that based on surface area, based on rainfall, based on height above sea level, based on moving sunlight, based on sunlight over time. These kind of factors can be mathematically calculated, and a wide variety of species, including things like insects, can be generated down to a population density over a specific area based on these characteristics. This creates relatively stable simulation environments and certainly enables a sufficient complexity for the Noble Apes to wander over their particular environments. There is no predator-prey within this, however. The notion of the changes and fluctuations of these population densities relates to the underlying quantum mechanical variables and not associated with consumption or with things being eliminated. The roboticist Bob Mottram added a growth and consumption metric with regards to vegetation in his early development with the simulation in 2010. And what came through that was a lot of additional processing, but also circumstances where the vegetation just became out of control. And because the ecosystem requirements, the complexity of the ecosystem and the variety of different predators fundamentally on the plants that grew in the simulation were not adequately modeled, there was a series of problems that ultimately forced a return to the underlying quantum mechanical simulation method. It's possible now to recreate a lot of the Ecosim components within Noble Ape. And if folks take an interest or they have a particular interest in dusting off this software, I'm more than happy to help out, pointing folks in the direction and probably doing a good portion of the implementation myself. It lends itself very heavily to an iPad app, actually. Something to think about. Tom in San Jose, signing out.